For my first video, I chose this Beaver 2.0. Not only does it cover all the bases we need to cover, disassembly, carburetor rebuild, it also gives me one little extra. I don't know if you can tell right in there, someone had cross-threaded the spark plug. So we're going to do a Healy coil on this thing as well. It'll probably be a multi-parter, probably definitely be a multi-parter. So let's get started. The first thing we'll start with is disassembly. I like to take off the more fragile parts first, because you flip it back and forth, you wind up smashing and breaking everything, and plastic gets brittle as it gets older. A little flathead screwdriver is all you need. Pop the cover off. Back to the side. Filter. And what I like to do is like to put the butterfly on the choke, stops crap from getting down there. And on the starter, it's 3 little screws. One. 2. And 3. Right here. Starter comes straight out. Now to the side. Okay, what I like to do is I like to lock the cord in right there. This way you're not fighting it the entire time. Let me take a clipper, which I have to get. Clip off the end. Pull it through. Temporarily put it back through, if you can. Make a small knot, so you don't lose it in case the recoil kicks in. And you're good. Put that to the side. Tackle the other side. Okay. From the handle. We'll replace this with proper nut when we put it back together. And nut that holds the actual cover in. Downside. And the cover comes off. Put that to the side. We'll clean that one up later. Now the bar comes straight off. And there's your clutch, muffler, and where the, let's see if I can get the little pointer here. This is the hole where the oil comes out of. You gotta make sure that one's clean before we put it back in. Bottom one's got a bunch of crap in it too. We'll get that later. Okay, now this handle is not designed to come off forward. You see there's a little notch right there. It's actually designed to come back. Once you take these screws out and pull the cover off, you can twist it around backwards. So I think what we'll do now. 5/16. Yep. And where is, oh, there it is. You don't have one of these little impacts, they're worth every penny. 2 at the front. Okay. And the entire front comes off. Ta-da! Gets filled with old gunk, you get that stuff out. Something else to clean. And as we're talking about this, how it won't come off forward, Turn it around backwards, and it slides right out. If not, you'll wind up snapping this little ear off. And there we have it. Oh, and the little choke knob. I mean, choke knob. The oil and lever. Okay, now we have to get the fuel tank right here. Now the tank fits inside the case roughly like this. It's a split tank. You've got fuel on one side, oil on the other. The fuel line runs beneath the case and runs up to the carburetor. Now the tank is a two-piece design. This tab fits into the case, which is that little white tab right there. Okay, when you pull out the case, the tab stays. Pull the tank forward, and the tab stays with the case, roughly. Now on the other side is the oil that leads into where the bar oil would be. There's a small hole right there that this tube hooks up to. And depending on how soft the hose is, sometimes it stays in the engine, sometimes it stays with the tank. If not, just pop it and push it back in. It's a really pretty simple design. Okay. And I don't know if you can see, there's the oil hose that leads into the, so you can oil the bar. And on the bottom, where this tab is where it hooks into the tank. To remove this, you just pull it straight out. You take a little jiggling. Okay, now let's see. Alright, well in this case, the tab didn't hold. It came out with the tank. So you'll be pulling on the fuel line as it comes, but we're going to replace that anyway. So let's see if we can guide this out a little bit. And what I try to do is take a screwdriver and push down on that tab and get my noggin out of the way. Yeah, it's a struggle. In there. Oh. Is it going? Is it going? Ah, there we go. And the tank is out. That's where the fuel comes out. It's kind of messy and dirty. Give that a good clean before we reassemble. And here's where the oil comes out. And where the tab should be, let's see if we can get that back in. Now the hose is stretched. But that's what you should see. Right in there. Now we get down to the nitty-gritty. The actual removing the engine from the case. I cleaned it out again, put a small tube in there to stop crap from getting down into the fuel line. But this is the point where we get started. The hardest part of the whole thing is this right here, which is the linkage to the carburetor. It runs down in the back over here and hooks into the carb. And when you squeeze the trigger, that gives you your throttle. This part here is your shutoff. That grounds it out. That's when your engine's on. Okay, we'll get started with that point here. I have another engine here to demonstrate that. Now the way the throttle works is it sits in this position. And as you squeeze the trigger, it opens and closes the throttle. And it sits in a little channel, just a little bit. Yeah, little C channel. And the hardest part is to pop that out and to pop it back in. What I usually do is I take a angled needle nose and squeeze it on one side to get the one side up, and then I take a small screwdriver on the other side and pry it up the rest of the way. And it should just pop right out. Okay, let's get a small screwdriver. And let's see if this thing makes a liar out of me. Okay. Grab it on one side. Oh, get my nugget in the way. Okay, grab it on one side. Hold it here. Might be difficult to do straight up in the air. And what I do is I take a screwdriver, and on the other side, push it up. Let's see if we can do it. And there she goes. Came right out. Squeeze the trigger. Let it come down. And what I usually do is there's a magnet and a flywheel, and I use that to my advantage to hold it. Okay, bring it over here, rotate it, and I use the magnet to hold it in place. Okay, next part. The engine is actually held in by 3 bolts. One here, one on the bottom, and one on the top over here. Now some guys, they remove the handle and the back and stuff. I prefer to do the path of least resistance. So I take a 5/8 box end, break it loose, so it's not 5/8, it is 5/16. Okay. One there, and one there. There we go. 2. And we just have to massage this one out. Let's see if we can speed the process along. There we go. And with that, the engine is unbolted from the case. Okay. Now this little choke lever, you've got to remove because you have to slide it out of the case. Now on some models you have to screw the mixture screws down because of clearance. I usually try to get it, massage it past first. If not, you're gonna have to rebuild the carb. You're gonna have to screw these things down anyway. Okay. Take the cover off. Stops the dirt. Notice all the dirt on the inside. That's what that little rubber ring is for. Stop the dirt from getting in the carb. And at this point, the engine's pretty clear. Do is you squeeze the trigger to get it out of the way. Pull the engine forward a little bit. Let's see if there's any clearance issues. Okay, turn it over. Now the spark plug here sits in a little channel right down there. Whoop, and that happened before. What I usually do is just push it forward out of the channel very gently. Okay, that's probably where it holds off the best. And lift the engine off. And there you go. Not so difficult. Now someone was already into this because McCulloch didn't come with a little rubber sheet on the bottom. Okay, and electrical tape. And I see why. On the electronic models, their Achilles heel is this piece right here. This is your grounding wire. And what happens is, as you can see here, it wore through on the boot from rubbing against the case. The first time I ran into this, it drove me crazy because there was dirt filled in the hole and it was a lot tinier than this. I took it out of the case, it ran. Put it back in the case, didn't run. Did that 3 times. I said, all right, let me go over this end to end. Yeah, so yeah, I finally wiped it down and saw that tiny little hole that was grounding out. So what I usually do, and what we're going to do here, is I use 3 layers of heat shrink tubing, which is impervious to oil and doesn't weaken like the original rubber boot does. And that generally cures it. 3 layers thick, it's not going to wear through.